Every culture carries its own monsters, ancient dragons and legendary beasts forged from centuries of storytelling. But America is something else. It is a young nation, a vast land stitched together from borrowed tales and new horizons. From its deepest marshes to its highest ridges, from lonely highways to its oldest woods, a fresh mythology has taken root. A pantheon of native-born creatures, each one a reflection of the land that shaped it and a mirror to the fears of the people who encounter it. This is a journey to chart those anxieties, to examine the strange and the dreadful, and to record the mythical beasts of America. The saga of the great American apes begins with the archetype, a figure that casts the longest shadow over the continent. It is a being with countless names, a timeless wild man embodying the vast, untamed wilds. This legend is most deeply planted in the dripping temperate forests of the Pacific Northwest, a realm of overwhelming scale and solemn silence, a perfect refuge for a giant that lingers at the edges of human sight. The modern version of the story gained its name in 1958. At Bluff Creek, California, a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew stumbled upon a trail of enormous human-like footprints pressed deep into the mud around his work site. The local press, hungry for a dramatic headline, dubbed the unknown figure Bigfoot. The label was simple, vivid, and enduring. It gathered centuries of scattered wild man tales into a single modern American phenomenon. The foundation of all later Bigfoot research became the Patterson-Gimlin film, shot on 16mm stock in 1967, again near Bluff Creek. The brief clip shows a massive fur-covered bipedal female striding across a sandbar. The footage is shaky, grainy, and endlessly disputed. For decades, it has endured relentless scrutiny. Supporters argue the creature's gait and anatomy are far too distinctive to be fabricated, while skeptics dismiss it as a clever but ultimately unsophisticated hoax. The film rose beyond the realm of mere evidence to become a cultural milestone, a raw litmus test for belief in the unknown. Beyond this iconic film, the proof of the creature's existence is preserved in a sprawling archive of reports and artifacts. Thousands of eyewitness accounts have been recorded, each repeating a steady pattern of behavior and form. Hundreds of plaster molds have been taken from immense five-toed tracks, showing hints of a flexible, non-human foot structure. Sound recordings, most famously the Sierra tapes, captured complex, primate-like calls that continue to resist clear explanation. Every fragment of evidence rests in a space of haunting uncertainty, persuasive to believers, yet unresolved to the scientific mind. The lasting strength of the Bigfoot legend speaks to a profound psychological hunger within the American imagination. It is a modern myth that keeps the frontier alive. In a world increasingly charted, measured, and understood, Bigfoot embodies the possibility that true mystery still endures. It is the spirit of the wilderness itself, a living rebuttal to the belief that humankind has conquered every corner of the land. Its survival, in a symbolic sense, is bound to the survival of the wild. The shadow of this towering ape, however, extends far beyond the rainy forests of the Northwest. The idea of a massive, hairy hominid proved astonishingly adaptable, taking on new forms and new names in the diverse environments across America. The first major variation shifts southward, from the cool, misty ranges of the north to the suffocating humidity of the Florida Everglades. Here, in endless wetlands and cypress domes, the creature is called the skunk ape. Its very name highlights its most infamous trait, a suffocating stench. Witnesses describe it as a nauseating mix of sulfur, rotting trash, and carrion. Often the odor is the first, and sometimes only, sign of its presence, a foul warning that clings to the swampy air. Some theorists suggest this smell comes from an active scent gland, a biological tool to mark territory in such dense, tangled terrain. Others believe the explanation is simpler. a diet shaped by decay, combined with constant exposure to stagnant, oxygen-poor waters. Physically, the skunk ape is usually described as slimmer and slightly shorter than its northern kin, with longer, rougher hair, an adaptation fit for the sweltering climate. The most striking visual evidence surfaced in 2000. A set of photographs, sent anonymously to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department, showed a large, dark, ape-like figure with glowing eyes peering from behind palmetto leaves. Though many dismissed the shots as a trick, an orangutan, or simply a man in a suit, the images gripped the public imagination. They remain some of the most famous and hotly debated evidence in the skunk ape's pungent legacy. The skunk ape reflects a darker, more primal version of the wild man myth. It is a creature born of rot and oppressive heat, a phantom haunting waterways and thickets that feel hostile to human life. Its legend reminds us that America's wilderness is not uniform. Each landscape can spawn its own monster. From the swamp-born phantom, the American ape archetype shifts again, this time into the backyards of rural America. In the small, secluded town of Fouke, Arkansas, the creature gained notoriety for its unsettling closeness to human life. The Fouke monster, as it came to be called, was a threshold being, a figure that crossed the line between wilderness and homestead. Its reputation was not built on fleeting glimpses deep in the woods, but on disturbing, close-range encounters that terrified families in their own homes. The pivotal events unfolded in 1971, centered on the house of Bobby and Elizabeth Ford. The couple reported repeated harassment by a huge, foul-smelling, ape-like beast prowling their property at night. It was said to peer through windows, and on one occasion, attack Bobby Ford himself, sending him to the hospital. What began as a local curiosity quickly transformed into a genuine menace, a monster that embodied the fear of home invasion. The Fouke monster's fame was secured by the 1972 docudrama The Legend of Boggy Creek. The film, which cast local residents to reenact their own terrifying encounters, became an unexpected success. It bypassed scientific scrutiny and instead framed the creature in the raw, chilling language of horror cinema. For millions of Americans, the Fouke monster became the definitive movie monster version of the American ape, not just mysterious, but actively hostile, a threat to anyone unlucky enough to enter its territory. This portrayal carved out a new dimension within the archetype. While Bigfoot remained the majestic riddle of deep wilderness, the Fouke monster embodied immediate, tangible terror. It represented the anxieties of isolated rural families, the dread that the surrounding dark woods were not empty, but rather a hunting ground for something that saw the porch light as the border of its own domain. The American ape legend also drifts into the realm of the bizarre. If the Fouke monster is remembered for its behavior, the Missouri monster, known as Momo, is remembered for its disturbing biology. The wave of sightings in the early 1970s described a creature so unusual that it seemed to stretch the legend beyond the limits of an undiscovered primate into something stranger and far more unsettling. Witnesses consistently painted the same portrait. Momo possessed a massive, rounded head, bulbous and pumpkin-like, that appeared to rest directly on its shoulders, creating a silhouette with no neck. Its body was cloaked in thick black hair, but the face beneath was said to be pale and almost featureless. The strangest detail, however, was left in its tracks. The creature reportedly produced large, three-toed footprints, a trait that baffled cryptozoologists and separated Momo from any known lineage of primates. This detail became its signature. The three-toed impressions served as the monster's calling card, a piece of physical evidence so uncanny that it fueled years of local dread and fascination. Unlike Bigfoot's five-toed tracks, Momo's footprints seemed to point toward something alien, not merely animal. The legend of Momo illustrates how a single strange characteristic can spark a lasting myth. It represents a tributary of the American ape story that flows toward the uncanny valley. a narrative built on disturbing traits that suggest something more alien than earthly, a being that unsettles by its very shape. Finally, the American ape archetype comes full circle. Its cryptozoological identity intertwines with something older, a deep folkloric current running through both Europe and America. In the shadowed hollows of Appalachia, the creature is known as the Wood Booger. This name carries a different weight. It links the modern legend of a hairy hominid to the ancient bogeyman of folklore, a hazy figure of menace long used to frighten children into obedience. The Wood Booger thus straddles two worlds. On one hand, it is described in cryptid terms. Its tracks, its size, its shaggy hair all align with broader Bigfoot reports. On the other hand, it is saturated with the supernatural. It becomes a malevolent forest phantom, a genuine monster embodying the fears of mountain communities cut off from the outside world. The very name frames it not just as an animal, but as a boogeyman, a spirit of the woods that one should actively avoid. This regional twist acts as a powerful synthesis of the entire American ape phenomenon. It shows how a modern myth like Bigfoot can graft itself onto older traditions. The Wood Booger is both an undiscovered primate and a folkloric nightmare. It is the perfect example of how legends evolve, weaving real wilderness mysteries with the inner landscape of ancient fear. So what do we see? A single archetype wearing different masks in different places, from the silent colossus of the Northwest to the reeking phantom of the swamps, from the aggressive backyard prowler to the uncanny three-toed anomaly, and finally to the spectral bogeyman of the mountains. It is proof of myth's adaptability. A single story reshaped to haunt every dark and empty space on the American map. The American wilderness also breeds stories of predators, creatures less elusive than Bigfoot, yet far more direct and menacing. These are tales of animals that appear as though they belong in the natural world, but are twisted into something darker. The most infamous of these legends was born on a quiet rural road in southeastern Wisconsin. It is the tale of the Beast of Bray Road. The phenomenon reached public attention in the early 1990s when journalist Linda Godfrey began investigating a cluster of strange reports around the town of Elkhorn. What started as whispered local rumor soon revealed a deep current of strangeness. Dozens of credible witnesses stepped forward, many keeping their stories secret for years out of fear of ridicule. These were not distant shadows in the trees. They were close, terrifying confrontations. The creature they described was a chilling fusion of man and wolf. It stood 6 to 7 feet tall, a bipedal canine with the muscular chest of a man, cloaked in dark, matted fur. Its head resembled that of a wolf or a German shepherd, with a long muzzle and pointed ears. Most unsettling of all were its eyes, described as glowing with an eerie intelligence. Often it was seen at night, darting across roads in the glare of headlights, an apparition that defied any known biological category. Some of the most disturbing encounters involved the beast crouching by the roadside, apparently feeding on roadkill. This repeated detail, told by independent witnesses, gave the legend a chilling consistency. The Beast of Bray Road was not a phantom. It appeared as a flesh-and-blood predator, with real needs and behaviors, lurking at the margins of civilization. This sense of biological realism set it apart from old European werewolf tales, which leaned on curses and superstition. Instead, the beast became a uniquely American monster, a modern version of the werewolf archetype, stripped of silver bullets and Gothic myth, reframed as a cryptozoological puzzle, a biological anomaly to be tracked and studied. As folklore, it serves as a warning, a tale for communities surrounded by deep woods and lonely highways. It suggests that the predators of the old world have found new and unsettling ground in the heart of the American Midwest.